Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we now are joined by Konstantin Kisin, who's the co-founder and a co-presenter of the Trigonometry Show on YouTube. He's also got a bit famous for his the Oxford Union speech quite recently, and many other things he's done in defense of free speech and sanity. Right? Hello, Konstantin. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thank you for that flashback to school. Nobody has pronounced my surname as Kissing since I left. But thank you. It's
how do people say it?
Kisin.
Kiss. Well, wait, what is it supposed to be?
You said it kissing with a G. It's Kisin.
No, I didn't say. I think I said kissing. Right.
Go back and listen to it. There's now audio and video evidence.
There's evidence. I'm going to edit my own video now. You're not really the face of the hard right, but you guys obviously have a show called Trigonometry, and it's quite popular now. Somehow you're getting a lot of challenges. I've seen on Twitter at times you guys get accused of giving platform to tinfoil hat nutters and everything else. Now you have a new problem. Your business account, so your company account are tied, which is also the same same company I use. I said a few days ago that they were going to be canceling you, right? What's going on?
Well, we don't know. So I'm wary of making a claim that this is politically motivated because we don't know. But the reason we're quite suspicious about it is we got a notification from them out of the blue a week ago saying that they're going to be closing our account. And then every attempt to get more information was met with just a complete stone wall of silence. We posted the screenshots of, frankly, the contemptuous way they replied to us, really. So if they refuse to explain why they're closing our account, that's kind of where you get suspicious, particularly because, as you probably know, the Reclaim Party, who are probably, much further to the right than us, but still, I mean, they're still entitled to a bank account. You know what I mean? They've had problems, and we know that PayPal cancelled the Free Speech Union's and Toby Young's accounts, and Colin Wright, who's an evolutionary biologist in America who just happens to, be educated in biology. And so for that crime, he's had his PayPal account cancelled. We actually interviewed him about this. So when it happens, you don't know what the reason is. We're still trying to find out. What is interesting, that you won't be surprised to hear this, when we tweeted out about it, it's been seen by like 5 million people now at this point. The tweet Tide very quickly went from being unable to, quote, provide any further information to suddenly investigating this as a matter of the highest priority. So we will see what that investigation brings up.
That's crazy. I mean, obviously, when it comes to these sort of situations, at worst, it could be politically motivated. We don't know yet. But at best, you still have a situation where it's a business and customer relationship being a bit dodgy. Businesses, especially banks, shouldn't really be able to do this when it comes to ethically speaking, without giving heads up, without actually giving legitimate reason. As far as I know, you guys haven't really done anything wrong in terms of money laundering, or I don't know what you do. You might actually be a people smuggler. I don't know.
That's well, nationally speaking, being from Russia, it would kind of work for me to be doing it, but no, we don't know. We'll find out, man. We'll have to just wait and see. But you're right. I mean, to me, the reason that, look, we are big enough now that this doesn't really matter to us, if I'm being frank, right? We've opened another bank account with another bank that reached out to us. Like, when you start getting banks reaching out to you, you probably are going to be okay, right? But the way that they just refused to give us an explanation made me really think, well, what if we didn't have the ability to put this on Twitter and have millions of people respond? What if we were just an ordinary person who had their bank account cancelled for, we don't know what reason, but let's say it's politically motivated, or let's say it's not, it doesn't really matter. What do you do then? Right? And that's one of the reasons we really wanted to make a big deal out of it, because this is completely unacceptable behavior. Now, look, if a bank chooses not to provide a bank account to somebody, for me personally, I think that's wrong. But we can have a conversation at a political level of whether that is acceptable or unacceptable for them to do. But they've got to at least explain why. Otherwise, it's completely arbitrary and insane. So, yeah. And if you go and look at the reviews on Trustpilot and elsewhere since this was made public, it does seem like we're not the only people who this happened to. I mean, their reviews are not looking good at the moment. So, Yeah, I think it's really important that we get to the bottom of this, because this shouldn't be happening to people. And if a company ceases to provide services to you, they at the very least should explain why.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it because obviously, as I said, I'm also retired, so you never know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen tomorrow.
Well, look, I'll be honest with you, man. I think, look, I'm not a massive fan of like this. Let's boycott
No.
whoever for whatever. But I do think, from a business owner perspective, the fact that even if this isn't politically motivated, let's say it's motivated by whatever, they don't want to work with YouTubers. Like, from your point of view, I would be moving, just because this is a bank that has a track record of not allowing you to keep your account. And we also heard from other people that they sometimes suspend people's account until they provide certain information or whatever. So I don't think you'd want to find yourself in that position either. So I just think it turns out Tide's not a very good bank, basically.
Well, I'm gonna have a chat with you in private afterwards to see what
Yeah.
I'm actually going with. So obviously, for those of you guys who've been following trigonometry over the last 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, you've been following the whole thing and you've been supporting it. For those who might have just seen clips and want to be more interested, what's the journey? Because you guys technically started just after me, but then you exploded, and it's a massive platform now, and you do so well. Yeah, tell us this summary of what happened.
Well, the point of the show is we have honest conversations with fascinating people, and we want to talk to people from left and right. We've had everyone from Arch Remainer, Lord Andrew Adonis, to Darren McGarvey, who talked about how, the rich always get their way and all of that, but in a very articulate and interesting way, through to people like Nigel Farage. And I think I have to say, not to be immodest about this, but our interviews with Nigel Farage are incredibly good, because we are not, arch Brexiteers. We both voted Remain, but on the other hand, we do try to treat people with respect and listen to what they have to say, particularly if they have as much to say as someone like Nigel does. And if you watch any of our interviews with him, you get to see a very different person that you get to see in the mainstream media, because it's not combative, and he really can open up and talk about things in a way that you've never heard him talk about. So what we try to do is speak to people who we think have a valuable contribution to the conversation, and we really try to humanize them, so that rather than this 3-minute caricature that you're going to get on the BBC or wherever, you're actually getting the full rounded person. And that's the comment that most of the people would often have for us, in terms of when we interview someone from the left or from the right. It's like, oh, I didn't actually think this person is like a real human being. And so when you sit down with somebody for an hour and you don't treat them like they're the evilest person in the world for having the wrong opinion, you can really have a good conversation, we find. And we try and, we speak to people not just about politics, we talk about culture. We've had people from the world of sports. We just had a former UFC title contender. We've had the former England player John Barnes on the show. We have people come, the weirdest episode we've ever done is probably with a guy who was a rat expert, talked about rats. There's all obviously culture and politics. We've broken a few stories, I feel, particularly, with trans and gender ideology. We've had whistleblowers from clinics on the show, and I'm not saying we were the first ones ever to like allow that information into the public space, but we were one of the few people to interview them. We've also interviewed a woman who transitioned one of her kids and then regretted it, and talked about that very powerfully. So we talk about a lot about the culture war, but we're actually going to be expanding into other things. And you're right, throughout the history of the show, in fact, when you came on the show, you'll remember it was in a small room above a comedy club. Well, this is no way to denigrate those guys, because they were actually very helpful to us, but eventually we had to go our separate ways because they didn't agree with what we're doing. So we faced a lot of challenges throughout. I don't really feel like talking too much about it now, because like I'm so grateful for, we're basically two idiot comedians started a podcast in a room above a pub 5 years ago, and now we travel the world and go on Rogan and Bill Maher and whatever, and do cool stuff. So I'm definitely not complaining. I don't like to be in that complaining space. But yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And I'm like you, I don't want to focus too much on the past, but on the future. So last thing is, what next? Any kind of interesting project? Is you going to do a live tour or something? Anything that you have kind of coming up?
Well, we've had live shows in the past, and we really enjoy them, but they're also a lot of work. So we'll come back to that. But we feel like we want to get to a point where our audience is even bigger, and we can sell out really big venues, and then it's really worth everybody's time coming together. The thing that we're talking about now, and I'm sort of teasing it with you, is we want to start making content that's not just about us. We want to make content on trigonometry that maybe isn't even hosted by us, giving an opportunity to other people to do interesting projects, making sort of mini documentaries and stuff like that. So we've got a lot of very cool things in the works that I can't wait. So by the end of the year, you're going to see some cool stuff from us, hopefully.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and best of luck with everything.